So I heard you say one time that someone asked you the same question, why don't you call Joe Biden a fascist, but you call Donald Trump a fascist? And one time you said that it was because Donald Trump criminalizes and demonizes his political opponents, and that's what fascists do. Well, of course, now they've been trying to criminalize and put in jail Donald Trump, Joe Biden's #1 political opponent, just like they did in Brazil and Pakistan. And so the global elite is doing this to anybody, and they'll do it to you if you actually become a threat. They will criminalize you. They've already started to call you right-wing and white supremacist yourself. And that's the game. They'll call you a sexist. They're going to call you, your followers are going to be sexist, violent, racist, and white supremacist, all that. You've already been called a right-winger by the establishment. So that's the game that they play. And what they're doing right now is trying to throw in prison anybody who the donor class doesn't want to run and is going to win, they'll throw in prison. They'll do it to Bernie. They Russiagated Bernie. They said all his followers were sexist and racist and violent. They said the same thing that they say about Trump. And they would have criminalized Bernie and put him in jail if he had a spine and he would have stood up to the establishment instead of folding into it. So it's important, I think, that people call out what's happening right now. I don't like Trump one bit. I oppose almost everything he says. And but he called for ending NATO, so I join him with that, and I'll join with anybody to do good and nobody to do wrong. Okay.
Same here. I'm with you at that. I'm with you on that too.
And so what's happening right now is what they usually do in third world countries, but they're doing it right here. The donor class doesn't want Donald Trump to become president, and he will if he's allowed to run. And so they did this. They're now 4 different indictments, each one more ridiculous than the last. And here, RICO, the Georgia anti-racketeering law, is being used to charge Donald Trump. And now the reason I bring this up is because they're the same people that did that to Donald Trump are using the RICO charges to go after activists from Stop Cop City. So let me just give you this story and then you can comment on it. So
sure.
Georgia prosecutors have filed racketeering charges against 61 people accused of involvement with Stop Cop City, a protest movement against a controversial Atlanta police training facility. The list of defendants suggests that the case implicates people who have already been arrested on tenuous evidence, like a legal observer who was jailed while monitoring protest activists who ran a bail fund for other defendants, and a trio of activists arrested while handing out flyers with the name of a cop who killed a fellow protester. The RICO charges come as Georgia's RICO statute receives national attention. Donald Trump and a collection of his associates were charged under the state's severe RICO statute last month. The same grand jury that indicted Donald Trump on RICO charges also indicted the Stop Cop City defendants. Are you getting the game now? The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported that on Tuesday, the Cop City Vote Coalition, a group that gathered more than 100,000 signatures to put the facility's construction up for a vote this year, condemned the charges as authoritarian measures by Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr. The group also noted that charging documents described the alleged racketeering scheme as beginning before the police training facility was even announced. Lauren Reagan, executive director of the Civil Liberties Defense Fund, which has been working in support of defendants, said the scope of the case is designed to dissuade people from supporting the Stop Cop City movement. It's been very clear that Georgia's intentions in how they've conducted themselves regarding the resistance to Cop City has been to try and scare even above ground law-abiding participants from taking part. I think by roping in a legal observer and people running a nonprofit and running a lawful bail fund is absolutely intended to scare people from supporting this cause now and in the future. In September of 21, Atlanta approved plans to build a police training facility dubbed Cop City by opponents in the city's South River Forest. The plans were controversial. Approximately 70% of locals who weighed in during a public comment opposed the facility, citing its cost, $90 million, its environmental impact, and its potential effect on over-policing in Atlanta. When the city moved ahead with the plans for construction, activists protested on the proposed construction site. Police shot and killed killed a protester, Manuel Tortuga Esteban Paez Terán, in January when they accused Terán of firing a gun. Subsequent autopsies have cast doubt on those claims. Soon after Terán's killing, police charged 19 more Stop Cop City activists with terrorism, despite many being accused of nothing more than misdemeanor trespassing around the proposed construction site. In a later crackdown, police conducted mass arrests at Stop Cop City Music Festival, accusing some people of engaging in property damage at a nearby protest. On the questionable basis that those people allegedly had mud on their shoes. The music festival was held in a forest. One of those legal observers was an attorney with the Southern Poverty Law Center in the National Lawyers Guild. Footage appears to show Thomas Jurgens being arrested while wearing one of the neon green hats that identifies NLG legal observers. We had some differences. When I say we, I mean myself and the Attorney General's office, about who should be charged with what they should be charged with, Boston told WABE. She added that Jurgens' case was one of the touch points of a number of touch points that ultimately led me to make the decision that I have made here now. The value set of our office is that I will only proceed on cases that I believe I can make beyond a reasonable doubt. The RICO charges also name 3 activists who were arrested this summer and charged with money laundering and charity fraud connected to their work running a bail fund that supported Stop Cop City defendants. Prosecutors allege that the trio committed felonies by spending some of the fund's money on such things as gasoline, forest cleanup, totes, COVID rapid tests, media, yard signs, and other miscellaneous expenses. Marlon Couts, one of the bail fund organizers named in the RICO charges, told the Daily Beast that the indictment was part of an effort to discredit activists. These indictments are just the latest chapter in a long-running campaign by Governor Kemp and Atlanta authorities to terrorize political activists. Since the beginning of the movements against Cop City, the Georgia Attorney General has shown a willingness to abuse the legal process as a weapon against political opposition. Judges have questioned the constitutionality of their methods, and even local prosecutor Sherry Boston has publicly condemned this prosecution as baseless and refused to participate. Make no mistake, this indictment is not about enforcing the law. It's a desperate overreach in an attempt to discredit legitimate political opposition, and it won't work. That's exactly what they're doing to Donald Trump. That's exactly what they'll do to you. That's exactly what they'll do to Bernie Sanders. That's exactly what they'll do to me. They'll do to anybody who is a threat to the establishment. And so,
let me get a word in. Let me get a word in.
So I'm going to let you. So I just want you to. So
absolutely.
Go ahead. Take it where you will.
I'm very glad that you're zeroing in on the struggle to shut down Cop City. I'm in deep solidarity with them. We're working together in the coming weeks, virtually and so forth. But there's a logical fallacy, a rational gap in your attempt to compare freedom fighters against a vicious system in the name of everyday folk in ghettos, in hoods, and working class communities against the police versus Trump. Trump, I'm not in solidarity with Trump. I want him to have a fair trial. I'm not in solidarity with Trump, simply because they use the same law against courageous, visionary freedom fighters against police brutality and police murder versus the same law against a gangster like Trump. Doesn't put Trump on a spectrum with freedom fighters, brother, at all. It doesn't put him on a spectrum at all. That's the fundamental difference between you and I in this case. But I'm glad you're talking about shutting down Cop City, because we know it's planned to be in a number of other cities as well. When I'm in Mississippi, it was a goon squad. The goon squad is shot through cities across the country. We saw it in Memphis, it's in Atlanta, it's in Chicago. But the idea of you recognizing that the same weaponization against these courageous freedom fighters is somehow on a spectrum with Trump, I radically reject that. I want a fair trial, but I think he's probably done a number of things that warrants a serious fair trial with him going to jail, but we shall see.
So you're for prosecuting the last president after he loses an election. You think that's a good way to run a democracy? Because again, you don't see the connection that this is the donor class criminalizing anybody who they don't like, and they'll do it to you, and they'll do it to Bernie, and they'll do it to anybody else. And so you don't have to like Donald Trump. I don't at all, but I see what the game is being played here, and you don't see that game being played. You don't see this game, really.
I see the game, the same law against the Proud Boys. I wanted a fair trial. I wanted to make sure they're treated, but at the same time,
they're doing
the fact
to the Proud.
They're being weaponized. But I think your support of Trump is deeper than you're acknowledging. You keep saying, "I don't like Trump. I don't like Trump." How can you compare Trump with freedom fighters against the police?
I'm not comparing. I'm not comparing that. I'm saying that the.
You are. You
I'm saying no. I'm not saying. I'm not. It is.
Of course, they're going to use it against anybody who.
It's the government. Okay. That's amazing that you don't see this. It is unbelievable that you don't see this. This is such a loser for you.
There's opportunity to show the deep differences. Very deep differences, though. But you do what you got to do, and I'm doing what I got to do, and I learn from you. And I hope you can learn a little bit from me, but we shall see.
Hey, so come see us live on tour. We're going to be in Detroit, that's Rochester, Michigan, Tampa, Boca Raton, Orlando, Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, where I went to college, Indianapolis, Levittown, New York, and Red Bank, New Jersey. Go to jimmydore.com for a list of all those shows.